So our next session, straight into that. So we are looking at paint shop for this session. So paint shop's always been one of those very interesting and very key parts of the manufacturing process, very quality driven, but also in terms of productivity, a lot of energy and time and innovation has gone into ensuring that the throughput is increased. There are no bottlenecks, and we're seeing that across materials and also into the application processes and curing processes. To find out more about that, I've got two experts to join me today. Firstly, Sébastian Salze, who's Business Development Specialist at Sammes Kremlin. Sebastian's worked for more than 20 years in the automotive industry, 10 years as a major French OEM. We'll guess which one that one might be. But a lot of experience, so welcome. Sebastian, thank you. My second guest is Robin Kaufmann, who's Head of Paint Shop Sales for Automation for FANUC Europe. So he has 20 years of continuous experience in this industry, and especially around automated paint production. So again, huge amount of experience. So we'll be getting some insights from Robin. Welcome, Robin.
Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I believe, Sebastian, do you have some slides you would like to share with us?
Yes,
to start with,
I do.
Yeah? That's absolutely fine. Would you really like to come up or and
Oh, okay. Just only 4 slides to explain what is Sammes, because you're not all aware about paint shops and our activities. Sammes for almost a century is providing service and equipment for paint shops and also for body shop, gluing, adhesives application, sealant, powder and liquid paints. So for general industry, but also, of course, for automotive. That's why I'm here. So you saw yesterday in BMW one of our competitors on the robots, but we have also a lot of other OEMs using our sprayers. It's electrostatic sprayers having a high efficiency for painting cars, body cars and bumpers. And we have also Sammes Intec, our German company installed in Erstadt, proposing equipment to dispense high viscosity, so sealant and adhesives, 2K multi-component in body shops. So from pumping to dispensing. And we are mainly in Europe with 3 production plants, but we are worldwide installed near automotive hubs like Shanghai, Detroit, and we are focused on efficiency. And that's why also we will discuss a lot about that, how in the paint shop we have to be more efficient because it's the most let's say, energy consuming shop floor of the automotive factories. That was a very short introduction.
That's great. Thank you, Sebastian. You want to take a seat? And paint shop's always been a really interesting area to cover. And we've been talking about kind of materials, digital stuff, EVs at the minute. But I wanted to get a sense of developments within paint shop operations. And to start with at the minute, I mean, one of the things that's sort of come about now is kind of the degree of economic constraints, certainly in Europe now, around car makers, tier suppliers. And then we see the big figures, the big numbers going into car plants, into EV production, battery production. But I mean, looking at paint shop, where's the investment? Is there any investment at the moment in paint shop, and kind of whereabouts is it? Is it in new paint shops? Is it in brownfield? Is it just retrofitting?
That's a very good question, Nick. I think we all saw the pretty dark picture that S&P showed this morning.
Yep.
Very unfortunate for Sébastian and myself. That absolutely reflects what we see in the paint shops over the last 2 years. Just looking at the IFR report, the International Federation of Robotics, you can see that the market for OEM paint shops within Europe has more than halved. So that is a pretty dark picture. But there is still demand there. It is not in greenfield paint shops, 20, 40 new painting robots in a line. That's definitely gone over the last 2 years. But there is demand for everything that makes savings in energy, in usage, in material, cost per unit, getting them down. And how can you justify that in Europe? Mainly by either, as I just mentioned, savings or reducing manual labor. Because until today, and you mentioned as well, that the paint shop is highly automated already, especially in Europe, but the major source of failure is still the human person.
Yeah.
So reducing that by automating is still one of the drivers to create demand with the OEM customers.
Yeah. And Sebastian, the same for you in terms of...
For CMS, as we are designing, manufacturing equipment for the robots, for the painting and sealing equipment, we have EV was bad for European business, but very good for Asian business, because in China there were plenty of new brands, EV brands, raising everywhere, needing each one a paint shop. So we sold a lot of equipment, and today our first market is in China.
And you mentioned there those greenfield and brownfield sites, and so from a European point of view, the brownfield sites are where the business is at. What kind of things are they looking to do? Upgrade the automation, or upgrade the processor system and the application equipment?
I'll refer back to the S&P presentation where we saw the green and orange and red spots.
Yeah.
There were clearly more red and orange spots than green spots. Yeah. So there is a lot of demand in reutilizing equipment, reusing robots, because the robot over the past 20 years has become super robust. The application equipment has become super robust. And in the process of wet painting, there is not that much space for optimization anymore left. Yes, there is another milliliter here, another hundredths of seconds in changing time. But all the adjacent areas of the paint shop, like manual inspection, skiving, sanding, automatic failure controlling, all of these things, and we've heard it in several different presentations this morning as well, the thing of collaborative robots going into paint shops, how can we work man and machine together? These are certainly things where you can convince customers to still invest.
Yeah.
But I would say 99% is brownfield, to answer your question.
And same for you?
On automation side, Robin, of course you're correct. But on process side, there are a few changes and optimization to be done. I would like to remind some figures. From the cradle to the wheel, one car is 50 tons of CO2, 50 tons. And more than half of the CO2s are during the driving phase, so the 15 years driving all around our cities. In these 50 tons, only 1 to 2% are CO2 from the OEM activities. And in this 1 and 2%, if you zoom on it, 70% is coming from the paint shop. And if you zoom again, because we are talking about paint shop, in the paint shop, what are the parts of each one? 70% of this is coming from energy only. So the energy today in Europe, we use a lot of gas to heat the oven and dry the coat. Tomorrow it will be more electrical, but we need also green electricity. That's why our OEMs are building EV photovoltaic panels, windmills, biogas, and so on for each factory. And also, it's why also we push so much for EV vehicles, because it's half of the total of emissions. And for the paint shop itself, the process, each grams or milliliter of paint saved is less CO2 for the OEM, for the paint manufacturer supplier, scope 3, and also less waste after. So we are working on more efficient way of managing the paint. So I roughly calculated that if you save 20 cc milliliters of paint when you change color, at the end of the year for one plant, it's 8 tons of paint less. It's huge because high rate, high production rate. So you see that there are a lot of small details which gives benefits to the OEMs, but they need money to invest to modernize their paint shops.
Yeah.
And we hope it will come back soon in Europe as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, because they're reprioritising just their investment programs at the moment to exactly where they're going to put things. I mean, the question here kind of thing is this lack of investment or focus on paint shop, is that affecting probably is from the sound of it, affecting the decarbonisation of the existing plants? Or is the brownfield regeneration of them, as you mentioned there, like enhancing the automation performance, enhancing various other parts, is that kind of supporting the decarbonisation?
I do think that they are investing to decarbonize because they have the European Commission to pushing them to. But the first is to make EV. So half of the 50 tons will be on electricity CO2 equivalent. So depending on the countries. And a large part of the energy consumed by the paint shop has to be greener. So they are investing a lot of energy saving in the paint shops. And the robot and the sprayer, altogether, it's 1% of the energy of a paint shop.
Yeah,
so it's very small part.
Picking up on what Sébastian says, it's more or less a daisy chain within the paint shop. And if you're thinking that we're talking about electrification throughout every industry, would you look at a paint shop where we're using tons of compressed air, and I will not talk about the effectiveness of compressors now, I don't want to criticize anything, but it can't be the right approach to create an energy for another energy source, like controlling valves, shaping air, whatever. Compressed air in a paint shop, I think that's one of the points that should be addressed, going into electrification there. As Sebastian just said, on the pure robotic and the application side, we are already in the 1% area, and Sebastian was mentioning milliliters. We are looking into driving robots with DC instead of AC, just to reduce energy consumption on that. It is already pretty automated. That's why you have to look at the paint shop as a whole thing, from A to Z, and not just the liquid painting line.
Just moving on to something else, one of the sort of trends in the market for vehicle painting was personalisation. We've seen quite a lot around this. Now, I was quite shocked a few years ago when I went to see a paint shop how they basically did a two-tone roof. Because they take the car off, they mask the car up and they put it back into through, which seemed, in the age of automation and process flow, seemed very counterintuitive to do that. But I mean, in terms of market trends and dealing in your work with your clients, is it an increasing trend? And I'm guessing it would be just adding. I know that process is now changing with automation, but is it adding more complexity into the paint shop?
You want to go first?
Thank you. Yes, it is more because when the first two-tone cars came on the market, the first ones, not only the first, they had to go 2 times in the paint shop, reducing the capability of the full paint shop, and between the two coats to mask with a lot of plastic films and a lot of people to put the ribbon on each car. So it was not very efficient. And now they do prefer, as it is more and more fashion, and including for EV, for Volkswagen, instance, the electrical vehicle, they all have black roof. It's for design effect. So they have to produce all the two-tone cars. So they dedicated a specific paint shop for that. So it's a lot of, it's few robots and sprayers for us, but it's a lot of process change and investment on that side So the next generation for sure will be to be able to decrease the cost of each paint shop. And a way would be to increase again a lot more the efficiency of each sprayer, to decrease the energy used to treat the overspray, and decrease the energy used to dry and keep the good temperature of the air in the booth. That will bring a lot. It's almost $500,000 for a paint shop for a year of euros. So it's huge. It can be very huge.
Yeah, I think your question was, does it add complexity? Clearly, yes, it adds a lot of complexity. And the trends, and we heard that earlier this morning as well, they are so fast developing at the moment. Talking about the black roof, the two-tone roof, everybody's been trying to develop this in a fully automated way. Now we're having black roofs automatically because all of the photovoltaic cells will be implemented in the roofs. So you will be going back to traditional spraying, just a clear coat over the photovoltaic cells. The development is so super fast, which adds complexity as well. You picked up on individualization. Clearly, yes, in a big global world and people wanting to individualize it in some form, this is going to increase as well, and is also going to increase the investments, especially on the high price segment cars, be it the two-tone rims, be it two-tone in some sort of way on the car body. Yes, that will come.
Nick, I would like to speak about another complexity which is not in each paint shop, but in between each OEMs. Today, for EV batteries manufacturing, there are almost each OEM is manufacturing its battery pack differently. Different process, different way of capability, different materials used. And this is a huge complexity to manage nowadays because each material supplier, we are working very close with them, brings an innovative material to answer a challenge of one OEMs. And we have to find the correct equipment to dispense or to spray this material on the battery pack. And we see that OEMs are looking for the best one. So they are benchmarking a lot, for sure. And it's not a standard common process, which before maybe 5 years in the market.
So is that the sort of insulating materials for the battery packs?
It's for the fire protection, for the gap filler, for the sealing of the cover of the pack itself. Some wants to be, the seal has to be destroyed when you open. Some they do want to keep the seal because for the maintenance operation, they do want to open and close without putting a new seal. Each one has a choice.
Yeah, and it's another interesting sort of application sort of topic there, because I mean things like sound deadening now are being applied by spray using automated as well, I think as well. So that's not a brand new one, but it is again a big sort of shift and a change in it.
This is exactly what I meant by the adjacent parts of the paint shop. It's not the pure wet painting as we traditionally come from. It's all the parts about how do we now start fire protecting the underbodies. We didn't have to care about that in the past. How do we close the holes? Do we do it with pads? Do we do it with plugs? How do we place the seal? All of these things within the paint shop are certainly the new challenges that have come up within the last, I would say, 3-4 years.
Yeah. Just moving on to working with your clients at the minute, where are you seeing the biggest areas of demand?
As I mentioned,
or not enough of it.
Demand is either created by a need or a want, and both is not really there.
Yeah.
Again, I'll be referring again to the S&P report or the slides we saw. There is a high overcapacity in paint capabilities in Europe at the moment.
Okay.
And all the red paint shops or red plants that were mentioned there have equipment left over that we are often requested to reuse at the moment.
Okay.
Saying that, the demand, as I said introductorily as well, the demand comes from outside of the classic wet painting lines.
Yeah.
It's all of the reducing manual labor, reducing failures.
Yeah. And this is, Sebastian, I'm guessing around sustainability is maybe the big focus for you?
Yes,
in terms of demand.
Yes, and for EV we are late, but we will launch solutions we worked and prepared, validated with material supplier next year for gap filler, gasketing, and fire protection. So it's additive business to the traditional paint shop and body shop business we had. And on the paint shop side, we still have some improvement equipment to propose, and we see some customers in tier ones as well, plastic tier ones, willing to improve their efficiency, managing the color change, not spending liters for every color change, but only a few tenths of cc. And it's for sustainability, but it's for cost. And that's, we are lucky. When we are working on the efficiency, we are doing both. You save paint and you save CO2s as well together.
And a question I put to the guys on the earlier session. I mean, in terms of partnerships, bringing in new technologies, competencies, have you been developing, growing your respective businesses around that? Have you brought in new areas that you've had to draw in because of changing markets and changing technologies?
Well, very clearly from our standpoint, we've always been working closely with partners.
Yeah.
The partnership with Salze is one of the best examples that's been very fruitful over many years. But with the shift to the electric mobility, the EV mobility, we have to partner up with various other suppliers as well, be it, as I mentioned before, automatic masking, automatic sanding, automatic failure detection, be it all the topic we've heard a few times this morning about big data, data analysts, how to utilize the data that you have in the best way. There's a lot of partnerships going on to meet the market demands.
Yeah, have they increased recently?
Massively.
Yeah. And Sebastian?
And yes, we are working with a lot of robots. So we have your robots in our labs to validate the process in front of the customers. We are working also closely with paint manufacturers, paint, adhesives, sealant, all these all materials that we dispense or apply. And it's moving also fast on this side. They are willing to have a more greener materials. So for sure the specification of the materials will change. So we have to adapt and to be sure that our equipment will be able to work with that materials. And they will be soon mandatory because we need more green energy, but more green also materials.
And we've just got time before we bring the session to a close, but one quick question. I mean, next big important technology steps in terms of paint shop, because it has seen some significant changes. I mean, even the way the cars have been transported through, zonal curing ovens, so that they, again for the energy efficiency. So because obviously one of the things when we were talking with the materials guys earlier on, if you've got different steel densities or different types of steel, the heating required in certain areas changes, so the bodies are not even as they used to be. So there's from my research, from when we've been covering it over the years, there has been a reasonable amount of technology steps. Are there any more coming forward? Is it more on the digital side? Is it more on the sustainability side?
It'll clearly be both. As Sebastian mentioned, almost 70% of the energy consumption of automotive manufacturing go into the paint shop. So there's got to be more innovation in there, saving energy. In what form ever, we don't know, or at least I don't know for sure what it's going to be today, but it is a must at this high figure of energy consumption. That's one. And two, yes, I'll stay on that one. Clearly, yes, something will have to happen. There will be some investments going on. But there is also a big kudos to the European OEMs looking at the paint shops, what they've done and how far they are advanced compared to Americas and Asia on the automation, on the paint savings, on the utilization of materials, greener materials. They are pretty advanced, and I think that's also where the reduced demand at this stage is coming from. The need is not as high as the shift to e-mobility at this stage, but there will be more investments, clearly.
There are some cues on what is coming very soon. They reduced the process before. After each layer, you had an oven to cure and secure each layer. Now, the standard process is waterborne 3 wet. You put all the 3 layers wet on wet, and after you cure everything together. The new coming in next 1 or 2 years, it will be the 4 wet. 4 wet meaning that you don't cure the sealant before, so you paint on the sealant. And there are some difficulties, of course, but you save 1 oven again. There's still 1 last. And on this one, they are reducing the temperature as much as possible. So they reduced by 10 degrees. Stellantis, they explained that a few months ago. 10 degrees, it's a lot of energy and a lot of money saved. But they are pushing the material supplier to go lower, lower, and lower.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think we'll bring this session to a close. Thank you, Robin and Sebastian, for your insights there. Always keen to find out more about paint shops. Hopefully there's more investment so we can talk about more technologies going forward. Just wanted to let you know, session, we've got a networking break coming up now, you'll be glad to hear. So you can go either the left side or the right side. Refreshments are available on both sides. Next session is engineering the future of manufacturing. So we have Dr. Sione Rowe is the Industry 4.0 specialist from Ford, and we have Eric Barnstead, who's lead architect for Azure Microsoft. So that should be a really interesting session coming up following the networking break. So with that, I'd like to say thanks very much, and go and enjoy a coffee.
Thank you.